Welcome, one and all. It's good to have y'all back. Episode number 12. That's right, we are at an even dozen. Thoughts and hunches, making money in bunches, and sucker punches. Your boy Stony back for the 12th time. You guys love it. All of my favorites, scumbags, losers, fienders, degenerates, all you guys. After a week that I had last week, there's no reason why you shouldn't be back. We knocked it out of the park, absolutely blasted everybody out of the water. After a 500 Thanksgiving, we turned it up a notch on Friday and just never looked back. We'll give you numbers as we get to each sport, but we're going to do 3 sports heading into the weekend again. Tomorrow we've got NCAA basketball and NCAA football on Saturday. There's also NCAA football on Sunday. And we're actually going to give you an NCAA basketball play for Sunday. It's rare that they offer an NCAA basketball number 2 games out, but they did this time, so we're going to take advantage of it. And obviously NFL on Sunday and Monday. There is a Tuesday game, but we decided not to play it this week. So anyway, here we go. Let's start off NCAA basketball right off the top. We went 2-2 last week. Not too bad. Lost our first 2 games, and it was like, whoa, what the hell's going on here on Thanksgiving Day? But then we bounced back and cleaned up. Went 2-0 after that. And really, me, myself, I've been red hot, right? Betting every single day on college basketball, and the numbers are just going through the roof right now. So we're starting to get a better handle on it. The bookmakers, it's still going to take them a while to catch up. Usually by January, February, their numbers are really tight. By March, they know exactly what they're doing, and it becomes tougher to pick out those winners from here and there. Tomorrow, there's a lot of games. So we're going to start bright and early with UConn and NC State. Well, bright and early, depending on where you are. Anyway, we're taking the Huskies -1.5. We're going to lay them against NC State. We're not necessarily going to pronounce this a down year for the ACC because Duke and Carolina are still the big dogs. But Duke and Carolina are both extremely flawed. NC State is extremely flawed because they don't have a bench. Or at least they don't have a bench worth playing. So UConn's the deeper team. They're more athletic. We're going to take the Huskies -1.5. Game number 2 is the game of the week. Number 1 versus number 2. It doesn't get any better. Gonzaga versus Baylor. We've seen them both play now, a couple games. Gonzaga was taken to the limit by my boy. Yes, my boy. It's very rare that I say, hey, that dude right there, that's my boy. Well, Bob Huggins, a.k.a. Huggy Bear, is my boy, always has been my boy. And he covered the 11 the other day against Gonzaga, actually held the lead deep into the second half before Gonzaga pulled away. The problem for Gonzaga is that Jalen Suggs went down with an ankle. He did come back and play in the second half, but he clearly wasn't the same. Who knows what kind of movement he's going to have. This dude's a superstar. He's the highest rated recruit that Mark Few has ever brought in at Gonzaga's history. So anyway, beyond the injury, we still like Gonzaga. Right? Baylor is very similar to West Virginia in that they press and they slow you down. But Gonzaga's athleticism and the amount that they can score, right? West Virginia did everything in their power to slow down Gonzaga, and Gonzaga still hung 89 on them with an injured Jalen Suggs. So we're going to take the Zags. We're going to lay 2.5. They're the best team in the country, with or without Suggs. You get a healthy Suggs in there, forget about it. They're going to be very, very dangerous come March, but they're very dangerous right now, so we're going to take them. Lay the 2.5 against Baylor tomorrow. The third game, we're going to take South Carolina +9.5 against Houston. South Carolina is starting to put it together after their Final Four run from a couple years back. They lost all those players from that Final Four team and had a couple of down years, but Frank Martin is a good coach. He's getting it together, knows what he's doing. South Carolina +9.5 at Houston. Way too big of a number for the Cougs to be laying. It's a good team in Houston, but not 10 points better than the Gamecocks. Game number 4, we're going to take UNLV plus 1.5 at Kansas State. This is going to be a good game. We're really looking forward to this one. K-State right now is down 2 players, and UNLV is not. UNLV is a deep team. They don't necessarily have a superstar or a go-to player, and they're a balanced team, but they play really well defensively, and they get out in transition really well. So we're going to take the Running Rebels plus 1.5 against K-State. The final game tomorrow is Utah State minus 1.5 against BYU. This is always a good matchup. BYU is basically a tournament team. I'd say 8 out of 10 years, 9 out of 10 years. They're a very good team, and Utah State has been just as good. So we're gonna take Utah State right now. The Aggies minus 1.5 against BYU. That's the smart play. There's your 5-pack of picks for tomorrow. And then going into Sunday, there is one game, at least one lined game already at the time that I'm recording this. There's one lined game for Sunday, and that's going to be also another good one. Villanova minus 2.5 against Texas. We're going to take Nova. Yes, it's strange to see Shaka Smart with hair, first of all, in Texas, and Texas is getting it done. Texas coming off a big win over North Carolina, where they blew a huge lead. They were beating them by 15, 16 points early in the second half, and Carolina came all the way back and took the lead down the stretch before Texas beat them. And the reason we like Villanova here, they're coming off a loss, a very disappointing loss, where they just did not look good at all. And but they're a top 5 team, and they're going to be a top 5 team all year. They're way too deep. Jay Wright knows what he's doing. He's going to keep the motor running, and we're going to take Nova. We're going to lay the 2.5 against Texas. So there's your 6-pack of NCAA hoops plays. Now we move on to NCAA football. And we've got a very busy day tomorrow with a couple surprises, scheduling changes. Remember, with COVID, everybody's schedule is all jacked up. Same thing with the NFL, but NCAA football especially, because there were games that were canceled because of one team. Then the team went out to go find another team on the not on the schedule, but another team that was off. And we got a couple of those, including one big one today. Anyway, we're going to start out early on, and I don't know why, but sometimes you just got to say, what the fuck? North Carolina minus 49.5 against Western Carolina. Yeah. 49.5 is an awfully large number for any NCAA football school not named Alabama. Carolina's been scoring all year, right? The only time they didn't score was last week against Notre Dame, which we had winner. And this week, they're angry. They're back. They're ranked 17th, I believe. They're 6-3. They're playing good football. And a loss to Notre Dame's not going to change that. And they're playing a team that has only had 2 games this year. They were losses to Liberty and Eastern Kentucky, in which they lost by 35, 40 points. And Western Carolina their conference opted out, so they weren't going to play this year. But they decided to play 2 games. They got blasted in both of them. Tomorrow's going to be no different. When most people would look at this, they'd say, oh, you got to take 49.5. It's North Carolina. North Carolina's not going to score that much. Yeah, they are. Carolina's going to score into the 50s, possibly the 60s. I'm looking at somewhere along the lines of 54, 55 to nothing, or 63-6. How does that sound? Something like that. Anyway, yeah, I'm nuts. Sometimes you got to be a little fucking nuts to do this. Minus 49.5. Take the Tar Heels and lay the lumber. Game 2. It's the big one. Next week would be the big one for Ohio State, but every game's big right now for Ohio State. There's talk about not putting them in the college football playoff because they'll only have 6 games because of COVID, and they're not playing Wisconsin, and they're not playing this team, and they're not playing that team, and now Michigan next week might be opting out just to kind of stick it to OSU. Well, OSU is still loaded, right? They had one tough game, which we had Indiana winner, and Ohio State still won, but didn't cover. So now they travel on the road to Michigan State, who has had a couple surprises, including last week's big, huge win, knocking off previously unbeaten Northwestern. And Michigan State has had two moments this year where they've looked really good. The other ones, they've looked awful. I don't know how they're going to slow down this angry Buckeye team, because Ohio State really knows now that style points matter. They're going to roll up the number. Ryan Day won't be there, but believe me, he's going to have his team ready to go, and Ohio State's going to roll easily. Minus 23.5. Lay the lumber with the Buckeyes. Game number 3, we're going to take Auburn plus 5.5 at Texas A&M. At home on the Plains against Texas A&M. A&M is close. They're 5th. They're just on the outside of the college football playoff looking in. They're not going to get into the SEC championship game because their only loss this season was to Alabama, and Alabama and A&M are in the same division of the SEC. So the SEC championship game is going to be Florida versus Alabama. So Texas A&M can get into the college football playoff without making the SEC championship game, but they're going to have to win out in order to do that. And tomorrow is going to be a tough one because Auburn has had its moments. I've been down on Auburn because they haven't played well, and they really, really looked bad last week against their rivals. And you don't think they're seething after letting Bama score into the 50s against them? It's just, Auburn's defense is good enough to keep A&M at bay and to keep them in this game and maybe possibly steal one late. But we're going to take the Tigers plus 5.5. Next up, we've got Syracuse. This is a tough play. Syracuse, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's laying 5 touchdowns, right? It's 34.5 is the number. And Notre Dame has been rolling, and they've been cashing a lot of tickets. For us, they cashed last week, winner. And 3 weeks ago, winner. We didn't play them 2 weeks ago. But anyway, we're going to take Syracuse. We're going to take the number. Dino Babers has never let us down whenever... Yeah, Syracuse is not a good football team. We know this. We get it. We totally understand that fact. And they're not in Carolina's class, hence the 34.5. But in this case, we're going to take the number. Dino Babers always does well. Notre Dame's at home. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold, freezing rain. So, if they score into the 50s... okay, fine, but they're going to have to hold Syracuse out of the 20s. Now, Notre Dame's defense is legit, and they're starting to show that. But Notre Dame's offense, Ian Book, is very underrated. People aren't really giving him a lot of credit, but he's putting up numbers. Doesn't matter. Give us the Cuse. Take the 34.5 on the road in South Bend. Next up, can't say it too loud, because everybody, my Tennessee neighbors, my UT neighbors would be very upset. They hang that orange flag out of their house every single Friday night. UT's terrible. The Vols right now are not a good football team. They're a mess. Jeremy Pruitt, who I like, has done a great job recruiting, is not doing a good job with the X's and O's, and Tennessee's fallen on their faces. They've lost 5 games in a row by double digits, which is a record for Tennessee. Tennessee's never done that in the history of their program. 5 straight double-digit losses. They've got Vanderbilt coming up on the schedule, and as screwed up as Vanderbilt is, the laughingstock, the joke, they might beat UT right now. So, no faith in UT. Tomorrow, the Gators come in. The Gators have an outside shot at the college football playoff. They know it. They've got the Heisman. They've got Kyle Trask. And now they've got Michael Pitts is back. He's healthy. And Tennessee, I don't see how they can even compete in this one. I don't see how they can hold the Gators to less than 45 points. And Tennessee's not going to score into the 20s. So, anyway, we're going to take the Gators. We're going to lay 17.5 in Knoxville. And Gators roll. Next up, NC State. We're going to take NC State minus 6.5 against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's mailed it in. Their season's done. They've had horrible, horrible games this season, and they're not getting any better. NC State 6-3. A couple more wins, and they could get into a really good bowl game. They've played well. Things are looking really good in Raleigh, and NC State knows it. And this is not a game to take lightly. They're at home. They're going to win easily, lay the 6.5, and watch them win by 3 touchdowns. This is actually my lock of the week, right? This one and Ohio State, I wanted to parlay the two of them together for college football because Ohio State wins big and NC State wins big. Those are the two biggies for college football. Next up, we're going to take Cal plus 9.5 against Oregon. It kills us to do that. Clearly not fans of Cal or anything Berkeley, but Cal, you know, they haven't looked horrible. They haven't looked good, but they haven't looked horrible. I'm not sold on Oregon. Not at all. They haven't shown me anything that would prove that they're the best team in the Pac-12 at all. They've not played well. They've struggled. Yeah, they've won games, but they've also lost the game too, so they're toast. They lost to OSU last week in the Civil War. Yeah, now some people will say, okay, well, this is a game after a big loss. They might come out and roll and win big, but they got to go south to do it, and they got to go into Berkeley to do it. And and Cal lost too. Cal lost their rivalry game against Stanford last week, which actually we had both of them. We had Oregon State and Stanford. Winner. Everything was a winner last week in college and NCAA football. Well, I haven't even given you the numbers yet, but I will in a second. Anyway, getting back to that one, take Cal, take the 9.5 against Oregon, and you'll thank me. Next up, we've got Clemson minus 22 against Virginia Tech. Clemson knows style points matter. We took them last week. We laid 24, I believe, winner last week against Pitt. The score was 31-0 at the end of the first quarter. That's 5 scores in the first quarter. Then they take their foot off the gas and they just cruise the rest of the way, right? But they still won and covered very easily. Clemson, their goal right now is to finish higher than number 4. They don't want the number 4 seed because that means you'd have to play Alabama in the playoff game of the college football playoff, in the semifinals. You want to play Alabama, but you want to play them in the final, in the national championship. You don't want to play them the week before. So Clemson's style points matter. Clemson's going to roll it up. Virginia Tech, that's another team, just like Georgia Tech, that has just mailed in their season. They've lost 4 out of 5. I have absolutely no confidence in this team whatsoever. They're, I would say, trending downhill, but they were trending down 3-4 weeks ago. They're just a mess. Clemson wins this one easily. Lay the 22. Next up, we're going to take Baylor plus 22 at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, after that rough start, has shaken it off and has quietly been rolling teams again, right? It's a Saturday afternoon. You're watching college football and you look up and you see Oklahoma won 52-16. Yeah, that's no big deal because that happens all the time, right? Well, not this year because after the 0-2 start, everybody just discarded Oklahoma. Oh, they're done. Forget it. We don't have to pay attention to them. They're out. They're out of the playoff. But they keep winning and they keep crushing teams in doing it. Well, they're going to have to crush Baylor by more than 3 touchdowns, and we like Baylor in this one. 22 is a big number, and Baylor is not worse than 22 points against OU, so take the Bears. Next up, Bama LSU. This number is ballooned all the way up to 29, which is a shock because a defending national champion, LSU, at home in Death Valley, Baton Rouge, is getting 29 points. Goes to show how the mighty have fallen this season. We're not going to touch that. We're going to lay off of it. We're going to take the under instead. The number's sitting perched at 68, and that's just a big number. LSU's offense is bad right now, and Alabama's defense is excellent. They're sneaky good. They're doing really well. We could see 38-10. We could see 48-10. Hell, we could see 58-10. Those are all winners. They all come in under 68. So take the under. This one should be pretty easy. Next up, we've got Nevada minus 6.5 against Fresno. A little Mountain West action. Two very good teams. Two very good teams that are still fighting to get into that Mountain West Championship game and hopefully make some noise into a late December, early January bowl game, depending on what bowl games haven't been canceled. All the bowl games right now, those, you can't even think about stuff like that. But we're going to lay 6.5 with Nevada at home, maybe in the snow in Reno. It's supposed to be cold, but depends on the precipitation. Anyway, we'll see. Lay the 6.5 with the Wolfpack against the Dogs. Finally, the Degenerate Special, which I've lost 5 in a row. 5 consecutive weeks I've given you the Degenerate Special, and it's lost. Last week, it was my only loss. I didn't give you my numbers last week. College football, we went 12-1 with these picks. For you doubters, hey, how you like me now? 12-1. Yeah, 4-0 on Friday, 8-1 on Saturday, and the only loss was the freaking Degenerate Special. It's just it's just one of those things that happens. So 12-1 got our record up to 48-27-1 on the season. That's 64%, y'all. That's top notch. And this shit right here is documented. All those, touts and pickers that, oh, give me $50, I'll make you winners, and I'm documented 68, 69%. Bullshit. You're all liars. None of your shit is documented. My shit's documented because it's right here. I give it to you every week. After the 12-1 week last week, we come to the Degenerate Special Saturday night. I've lost it 5 weeks in a row. It's time to turn this around. We're going to take Utah minus 11 against Oregon State. Yeah, why would we take a winless Utah team laying 11.5 against Oregon State after Oregon State just beat Oregon to knock them off the ranks of the unbeaten in the Pac-12 and basically kill any chance the Pac-12 had of getting a team into the college football playoff. Anyway, Utah's better. They're bigger. They're much stronger. They're faster. Kyle Whittingham had a couple tough games to start the season, but this one right here, they're back in Salt Lake City. They're going to make this one look easy. There's your Degenerate Special. Take Utah, lay the 11 against Oregon State. And then finally, on Sunday, now, maybe you can call this the Degenerate Special, but no, the Degenerate Special has to be on the same day. So that's why Utah, Oregon State is the Degenerate Special for Saturday night. But there is there's actually 2 NCAA games on Sunday, football games. We're going to go with Washington State plus 12.5 at USC. Once again, USC has not impressed us at all. They've been struggling. They haven't played well. They're winning games, but they ain't covering. So we're going to take Wazoo plus 12.5. And I don't want to say take a flyer, but we like Wazoo. That's why we're taking them. So there you go. That was how many plays? That was 14 NCAA plays, right? Coupled with the 6 NCAA hoop plays. That's 20 picks already. We ain't even at the NFL, right? So that's how we roll here in the club. So anyway, here we go. Now it's time to move on. NFL Sunday, NFL weekend. Last week we went 4-4 in the NFL. Kind of seems par for the course for us. That's what we do. We don't put up big numbers in the NFL. We hover between 53 and 58% usually in the NFL. We don't make a lot of money in the NFL, but we do turn a profit. Right now we're 32-28-1. That's just that's 51, 52%, right around the black. So we're going to try to turn it up a notch this week. So we're going to start out with Indianapolis and Houston. We're going to take the over 51. Indianapolis' defense had been playing well, but the last couple weeks they haven't. Houston's offense is starting to dial it up. Deshaun Watson is really, really starting to put up some scary numbers. And Indy, we know they can because Philly Riv really gets it done. So we see Indianapolis in Houston going over 51, and this game really really should fly over. Before we go on to game 2, I just wanted to point out a couple things about the NFL picks last week. The reverse turf home dogs wound up going 1-1. There were 2 games, went 1-1, and the only game we lost is kind of a, there should be an asterisk on it because it was Denver, and Denver lost all their quarterbacks, so they couldn't even play a quarterback. They started out as 5.5-point underdogs with Jeff Driscoll as their quarterback, and by game time, they had somebody nobody's ever heard of who hasn't played down of quarterback in like 3 or 4 years, and the line ballooned from 5 to 15, and they still got blasted by 30 points. So, that was a major asterisk. The other one was we took Atlanta at home against the Raiders, and Atlanta blasted them. Atlanta beat the Raiders by 37 points, and that was easy pickings. We didn't expect them to win by 43 points, but we expected them to cover. So anyway, the reverse turf home dogs went 1-1 last week, and this week there aren't any, so we don't really have to worry about it. Anyway, game 2, Tennessee, my backyard. Cleveland's coming to town. Some people are calling Cleveland America's team because everybody's rooting for the Brownies. Who's rooting for the Brownies? Are they the lovable losers like the Chicago Cubs were? Bullshit. That bullshit narrative that the media tried to force feed you? No. Tennessee tomorrow. Lay the 6 against Cleveland. 2 very good rushing attacks. But which quarterback do you trust more? Baker Mayfield or Ryan Tannehill? I thought so. Lay the 6. Game 3, Atlanta +3 against New Orleans. New Orleans is going to fall on their face, period. It's going to happen. Drew Brees is still out. Taysom Hill has played well and has looked good. But so is Atlanta. You saw what they did last week at home. They're at home again this week, and they did get blown out by New Orleans on their trip to the Superdome last month. But now they're back. They're at home. They hung 43 on the Raiders last week. Now, granted, New Orleans is much better than the Raiders, but we're taking Atlanta. We're going to take the 3, and if you want to take a flyer on the money line, by all means, go ahead. Next up, Chicago versus Detroit. Yeah, there are people in the world who bet on Chicago versus Detroit in a truly meaningless game with 2 horrible franchises, 2 of the most vanilla, plain, bland teams around. We're going to take the Bears because we didn't learn enough by watching Aaron Rodgers crush them, even though they were one of our picks last week. We didn't learn enough watching Aaron Rodgers crush them, so we're going to take them again this week. We're going to lay 3 at home against the Lions. Next up, we're going to take the Raiders -8 in a bounce-back game. Yes, granted, they're traveling cross-country to play the Jets, but they're the Jets. The Raiders have lost 2 straight. Raiders are too good of a team to be losing 2 straight, especially this late in the season. This is a game for the Raiders to get healthy. It's a game for it to pad some stats. John Gruden knows this. Raiders dance. Raiders win by 15, 16 points. This one's one of the easiest plays in the NFL this week. Next up, we're going to take the Rams -2.5 at Arizona. These are 2 good football teams. The problem with both of them is just when you start to heap praise on either one of them, they fall. And that's happened to both of them time and time again this season. Earlier on this season, Kyler Murray was the next best thing. He was maybe the second or third pick for the MVP. He was running, he was throwing, and everything was going great. And every week you could bet the over in 50 yards rushing for Kyler Murray and make it easily. Well, now he's barely getting 30 yards. Hopkins was 100 and something yards and 8 to 12 catches every week and 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now he's 2 catches, 27 yards, right? The Rams were lighting it up. Their defense, they were the toast of the NFL 2 weeks ago. They fell on their face last week. The 49ers hammered them. Well, beat them. But 49ers have their number, period. They've got Sean McVay's number. So, anyway, we like the Rams here. The Rams always play Arizona well. Whether Arizona's good or bad, the Rams always kind of seem to rise to the challenge in that one. So, we're going to take the Rams. We're going to lay the 2.5 in Glendale. Next up, we're going to take the Giants. Yes, we are taking an NFC East team. It's horrible to admit. Can't even imagine why we're doing it. But it happens from time to time. You just got to say what the fuck. That's what we did with North Carolina yesterday. Anyway, New York Giants plus 10.5 at Seattle. That's a long trip. Flying from New Jersey to freaking Seattle. And Seattle is Seattle. Their defense is playing better. Their defense was a laughingstock a couple weeks ago, but they're playing better. The New York Giants are coming in without Daniel Jones. And it's Colt McCoy. So we're going to say, what the fuck? Do it. Take them. Take the Giants. 10.5. Big number. Big number. Don't confuse us here. Seattle wins, and Seattle wins easily. Well, this game's got backdoor cover written all over it. Next up, we're going to take the Chargers at home against the Patriots. Another long trip from Boston to L.A. Yeah, that's a very long trip. Anyway, New England's basically done, right? The only matchup that New England has here that wins is a huge coaching matchup where Anthony Lynn is Anthony Lynn and Belichick is, not necessarily God himself, but certainly a high-level VP. Anyway, we're going to take the Chargers. We're going to lay 1.5. A short favorite at home like that. They've played well, and they almost invent new ways to lose every week. No, not this time. They're going to brush New England off to the side and move the fuck on. Next up, 49ers, SF. I saw 49ers and Buffalo Monday night. That's the late game. 49ers at Buffalo. We're going to take the 49ers. We're going to lay the 1 point. We're still not sold on Buffalo. Nope. Sorry. Haven't been all year. Another long trip. Buffalo to San Francisco. Buffalo to Phoenix. Because they're playing in Phoenix now. So anyway, 49ers win. 49ers win. 49ers win. Buffalo ain't all that. 49ers are starting to get healthy. Lay the 1. Finally, the other Monday night game is Washington. Yes, we're going to take another NFC East team. And this one is plus 7 against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's kind of on cruise control right now. And do they want to run the table and go undefeated? Of course they do, sure. But you saw what they did against Baltimore last week. They almost fell. So 7's a big number. We're going to take the Washington. Washington's got a great defense, a very good defense, and they do a lot of the same things that Pittsburgh does to frustrate you, and we just don't see Big Ben having a huge game against Washington. So we're going to take the touchdown. There you go. There's your 10-pack. Your 10 NFL plays for the week, coupled with the other 20. That's 30 picks we just dropped on you. 30 freaking picks, okay? Last week, I don't remember how many picks we gave you, but we wound up with, it was 12, 4, and 2, so we wound it up with 18 wins. Yeah, it was 18 out of, was it 28, I think? We had 18 and 10. No, it couldn't. We only lost 7 games. But anyway, I don't even know my overall number for the week last week, but it was a winning week. That's all that matters. There's 30 this week. 18, 19 wins would be great. 20 and 10 would be fantastic. That's what we're shooting for, 20 wins. But who knows? Finally, we're going to give a couple shout-outs for the week. Start out with my boy PDD, better known as Pete Dasco. Happy birthday to your boys, the 4-year-old twins, the animals, the savages, the future degenerates of the world. Happy birthday to your boys, man. Pete, you are the man. And finally, last but not least, my baby, Mo in Dallas. You taught me more than any woman, aside from my mother and my grandmother, that I've ever met. You are fantastic. I miss the hell out of you. I hope you're having a ball in Dallas. I know you are, because I just talked to you earlier in the day. But anyway, it's happy birthday. I'm not going to tell everybody the number because you wouldn't like that. But anyway, Mo, love you. You're the best. Happy birthday. So that's it. That's it for me. That's it for the week. Let's all get out there and get paid this week. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And, if you want to make some money this week, if you want to win big, you got to bet big. So finally, good luck to you.